So I'm in that little space between the two holidays, in the little wind down period. And I'm sitting here thinking about something Mike said after we saw two movies last week. We're having one of those conversations, just casually talking about everything that we saw in the movies. And he dropped one of those truth bombs that completely shifted how I see something. He said, real life is not a crowd pleaser. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about that since. Every journey starts with a choice, and mine is a bet. For 1 year, I'm gambling on energy over strategy. No more forcing and no pushing. Just the courage to show up and see what happens when reality becomes my playground. This isn't a podcast. It's a real-time experiment in the lab of my life. Welcome to the bet. So here's what happened. Christmas Day, Mike and I went to go see Song Sung Blue with Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. It's this love story about a couple who end up forming a Neil Diamond tribute band, supposedly based on a real story. And the next day, we saw, what is it called? This Thing On? That's what it was, with Will Arnett and Laura Dern. It was directed by Bradley Cooper. Also a love story, also supposedly based on real events. This one is about a couple going through a separation, and he finds stand-up comedy in the process. Both movies were good, but at the end of the day, I think I liked Is This Thing On better. And here's why. Song Sung Blue, I don't think it was trying to be cheesy, but it totally was, to me. Had all of these very dramatic moments rolled into a neat little Hollywood package. And they condensed their entire story into a 2-year period. Even though when I went and researched it later, the chronology was totally off. Like things that had happened over a decade got compressed into this 2-year time span for the movie. And it made it all very convenient how everything happened. It was clearly designed to be a feel-good movie. You know the kind. I actually say these are the kinds of movies that they make for people who have emotional credit cards. So they just want to hand over their emotional credit card and say, make me feel something. I'm ready to escape. And the other movie, Is This Thing On? Totally different. No big dramatic moments. It was more like having this opportunity to peek in on a real relationship, watching actual conversations play out. And the best scene wasn't even between the two lead characters, in my opinion. The best scene of the entire movie is when Will Arnett's character is telling Bradley Cooper's character that he's been doing stand-up comedy as an outlet. And Cooper's character, who's an understudy actor that's always going for the big part, but he completely makes the moment about himself. He says something like, the one thing that always gave me comfort is that you're the one who settles for things. I'm the one who goes for what he wants. And now, you're going to be this big hit because you were always funnier than me. I don't know. And the kicker is like Will Arnett's character isn't even trying to make a career out of stand-up. He's just doing it to process his feelings. So that scene was just so real. That's how people actually think. And it's the messiness of actual relationships where someone shares something truly vulnerable and the other person makes it about themselves, right? It doesn't have like this neat packaging and scripting and the perfect resolution. So now, to understand why Mike's comment landed so hard, I think you need a little context about him. I like to joke that he was raised by Hollywood and sports. And I mean that literally. We say his mom was Hollywood and his dad was sports. So movies and sports were his only real constants growing up. Hollywood was his mom, sports was his dad in terms of what actually raised this man into an adult. He learned all his life lessons from movies. He is one of those people who relates everything to a film or to some scene in a film or a TV show or something that has been produced. The man is a walking IMDb. He can tell you what year any movie came out, who directed it, what else they were in. And movies are not just entertainment for him. They are how he has learned to understand the entire world. I mean, you see enough movies, and for him, he watches them over and over, like they're his family members. It's like joke, like that's how he learns how people think or what people's different perspectives point them toward in the world. So after we saw these movies, he and I were having this big post-movie discussion, which he loves to do. And I'm going through my ratings and review, and I'm explaining how these are essentially the same movie. They were just being told through completely different production lenses. Both movies were clearly a love story. Is This Thing On felt very real life, while Song Sung Blue felt like Hollywood's version of real life. And that's when Mike said, yeah, because real life is not a crowd pleaser. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, real life is not a crowd pleaser. And sitting there while he said that, I was like, this is so true. And it made me face something myself. I think I've always imagined my own self as the main character of my life. I've talked about this multiple times. I envision that there's a film crew following me around, documenting everything I'm doing. And I literally use this visualization tool to propel myself forward. When things get hard, I imagine how the scene will look in the movie of my life. But Mike's comment made me wonder, is there still some part of me that's performing for other people? Am I trying to build a life that makes other people happy to watch? Because if I'm really honest, sometimes I do feel pressure to make my life more interesting, more dramatic. Like if it's just day-to-day normal people stuff, who cares? Right? But here's the thing. People aren't necessarily supposed to be caring about my life. They're supposed to be caring about their own lives. And most of us are. And yet, we love watching the stories of others. It's such a paradox. If we don't really care about other people's real lives because we're so wrapped up in our own world, then why do we love movies and books and stories so much? Why are we obsessed with other people's journeys? Why is that so compelling to us? And here's what I think. Every single one of us is born into our own unique, custom-designed hero's journey. We all have a path we're supposed to be walking. We all have some thing we have to decide we're going to face, and we face it, and we make it, and we come back around. Live to tell about the story. Every person gets exactly one turn to show up and live a life that stands for whatever it ends up standing for. That's it. We get the one shot. And when you really stop and think about that, that is inherently dramatic. We're not acting, though. We're living it. This is real for us. Hollywood spends billions trying to portray the human experience. Because the human experience itself is the most fascinating, the most wonderful, the most indescribable thing. The drama isn't in manufactured moments or perfect story arcs that have been engineered together. It's in the fact that we're all here making our choices, building our things, figuring out our shit as we go. So that, for whatever reason, really resonated with me this week, and I really wanted to share that with you. And speaking of crowd pleasing, something else, I really got excited to be able to talk about this on the podcast because something happened this week that kind of proves that I'm moving in the right direction. I got my first official troll comment on Instagram. It happened. And honestly, it didn't even bother me. I think because I've done so much pre-work about this, I've heard multiple coaches, multiple people tell me that if you're not getting negative comments now and then you're not clear enough with your messaging, or you're not reaching enough people, or you're still playing it safe on some level. So in a way, I have been expecting this. I have been programming myself to expect this, programming myself to view it as a marker of success. Like, oh, you've hit a new level in your business now. Because I have, until this point, have not received a single negative comment ever. So I was wondering if it was going to happen for me. And it did. It came on a reel I put out. And the funny thing is, Instagram automatically filtered it. It hid it out of my view. Must have flagged it somehow. But I took a screenshot from my memory book from somebody called, this is for you out there, life_has_been_good_. Life has been good. Probably a bot, but whatever. And to quote Life Has Been Good, it said, that look, ... WTH ... evil Karen stare ... yikes. There it is. My first hater, fully documented on the bet, officially out of the way. And you know what? I felt validated. Like, okay, I'm finally saying something clear enough that not everyone agrees. That's actually progress. And nobody ever saw it anyway, so I'm no longer afraid of the trolls coming out. Now watch, I'm going to get a whole troll parade and we'll see how I show up then. But, no, what you say is powerful, Laura. Remember that. So yeah, we're ready for it. Whatever it is, we're ready for it. Actually, let me say, if I'm going to speak something into reality, let me say what I truly mean, which is that I want to show up speaking and communicating in my full power in order to reveal whatever it is that someone else might need to hear in order to have their own breakthrough moment. That's all I truly care about. And if that brings out trolls, then I'm down for that. That's fine with me. Okay, I want to also talk about something that really worked well this week. My Substack publishing day happened to fall on Christmas morning, and I had been thinking about some way to give a gift to the people in my world. Something real, something that creates some kind of shift for them, not a performative type of gift. So I did something that I do for myself regularly. I wrote a love letter to their brains. I write love letters to my own brain in order to build a partnership and to establish coherence between my heart and my mind. And the response to this Christmas Day letter was overwhelming. It did exactly what I intended, which is serve the people who invest their time with me. And here's the thing. If someone read that letter every morning for just a few weeks, they would see a massive shift in what their brain starts filtering for them. It was so good. If you haven't had a chance to see it, if you want to read it and start really building a coherent partnership with your mind, I'm going to put the link in the show notes because I think anyone who reads this regularly or writes a letter like this for their own selves will start to change the filter of their mind. It's so powerful. So as we are wrapping up this year, I've also been doing this energetic exercise to close out 2025 properly. I even recorded a 30-minute guided audio for my new one-on-one clients to walk them through it. And the concept is simple, but very powerful. Until we completely clear our canvas, we cannot paint a new masterpiece. You might think that you can just paint over your old work, but inevitably, the existing colors underneath are going to bleed through. They're going to impact what you are painting on top of it. And the texture is going to be different, right? The texture will be affected by the paint that's existing underneath. So how do we clear the canvas? We do that by taking time to process all the lessons that came to us this year. Because here's what I know. Until you learn the lesson, you keep getting the test for that lesson. And the tests get louder and more painful until you finally learn them. And there's two reasons that I really love this practice. First, It creates actual blank space for what's next. If you do this process correctly, you should feel absolutely limitless when you look toward your future. Like anything could happen. And that is a beautiful space to program your mind from. Second, even the act of trying to find the lesson counts energetically. What do I mean by that? Sometimes we don't know what the lesson is. We don't know. But even going through the motion of searching and being open for the lesson demonstrates to the universe or God or whatever organizing higher power principle you believe in. It demonstrates that you are conscious, aware, that you're someone who's tuned in. So you might get some of the same lessons, but they're going to be the softer version of that lesson. For me, the biggest lesson this year is that I tend to make things complex because I equate complexity with hard work. There's still a part of me that thinks something has to be hard in order to be worth having. I see it everywhere. I see it in my business, in my marriage. It's like this underlying belief that if you're not constantly working, constantly struggling, pushing, then what you have built is going to disappear. To me, I can't separate those two. Same way, like how I think about how your body changes if you stop working out. It's that same principle. But is that actually true? Or is it just a story I've been telling myself? So I'm working on holding the frequency of meaningful work instead of hard work. How can I wake up each day to something meaningful, whether or not it requires any effort? Okay, and along those same lines, Mike and I were working on our joint goals, and we had this small little bicker this week that turned into something brilliant. I can't even remember what it was over, but we were going back and forth, both of one of us trying to prove our point. And he said something kind of snarky, like, well, whatever, I guess you get to be right and I'll be wrong. And without thinking, I was like, wait, we're a team. That means if I'm right, you get to be right too, because we're on the same team. So we're both right. And something about the way, like I was so genuinely excited when I said it, we both just laughed. And then he stopped. He's like, wait, that could actually work. So we've decided that because we are on the same team, all wins and losses are assigned to both of us. So if one person wins, the team wins. If one person is wrong, the team still wins because that means the other person on the team was right. So the only way we lose is if we're both wrong, which doesn't sound as brilliant and clear as it did in the garage when we were having our little bickering over it. But yeah, we're going with that for 2026. And we're also working on no more waffling. We are making decisions and we're sticking to them. And Mike is particularly working on what he calls bundling, which means, I was like, what is that? Using fewer words to convey more meaning. So I'm excited about that. And my word for 2026, actually it's two words that go together, is one concept: operating field. What field am I operating from? Am I operating from fear or love? From scarcity or abundance? From performance or my authentic, fucking amazing self? Am I in any way trying to perform something, or am I showing up fully real? I could do an entire episode on this. Actually, I've been thinking I should do an episode on what my energetic practice, in quotes, actually is, like practically speaking. What do I do when I go on talking here about holding the frequency of what it is I'm trying to build? Because people ask me about this and it's hard to explain in a quick answer. So I think I'm going to put that on the docket in a week or two. Oh, and a final little update. Talked about this the last 2 weeks now about my little fancy spa gym membership that I wanted to get after 2 years of waffling. Plot twist last week was we have to go on a wait list. and they won't have any room until 2026, probably late 2026 is what they said. But Mike, being Mike, decided to give me an early experience as a Christmas gift. So next week, he has arranged a full day at the fancy spa gym. We're going to have breakfast together. Then I get to do a Pilates class at like 9:30. Then I get a massage, then lunch, then a facial, plus all the sauna and steam room and hydrotherapy time that I want. So it's going to be a full experience. So even if real life might not be a crowd pleaser, this day is going to deliver in a very big way. I think I'm so excited about that. So here's what I'm taking away from all of this as we close out week 17. My life doesn't need to be a crowd pleaser. I am focused on being real and authentically me. And the bet was never about creating content that people would love, even though it's so easy to slip into thinking like that. I have to make sure this story is compelling, has to be interesting for people to listen to. But the bet was always about documenting what actually happens when you build from energy instead of strategy, and what actually happens when some weeks are boring and some weeks are exciting. Some weeks you get trolls. Some weeks your husband says something over breakfast after watching movies and it reorganizes how you see everything. That's real life. It is not scripted out for applause. It is just being lived. So to everyone out there who is building something, and I heard from another listener this week that made me so excited. I just love that. To all of you out there who are building something, that decision alone makes you exceptional. Hear me on that. You're someone who has decided to make something happen rather than just think about what it would be like if. So I have so much respect for any human who decides to take control of their own reality. You are my kind of person. Okay, so that's a wrap. Next week is my little monthly check-in. That should be fun. Until then, go bet on yourself.